Anita never imagined her dream would look like this, her lying on the cold marble floor of Victor's mansion, holding her ribs, struggling to breathe, while the man she fought so hard to steal walked away without even looking at her. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't care. He simply pointed at the mess on the floor and said, "Stand up and clean that place." At that moment, Anita finally understood the painful truth. She didn't steal Sandra's happiness. She stole Sandra's suffering. Everything began the day she wished for a life that was never meant to be hers. Sandra and Anita grew up together in Surulere, Lagos. They were inseparable, two girls who shared food, dreams, secrets, and even punishments. Sandra was the quiet, gentle one. Anita was bold, outspoken, always wanting more. Even as children, their personalities showed their future paths. Sandra wanted peace. Anita wanted luxury. Still, they loved each other deeply. People often said, "These two act like sisters." And they really did. Their lives began to change when Sandra met Victor. She met him during one of her small catering jobs. Victor was handsome, respectful, neat, and had money. He liked Sandra immediately and didn't hide it. He brought her lunch. He picked her after class. He supported her small business. Sandra fell in love softly and quietly. When she introduced him to Anita, Anita hugged her and smiled, but something tiny and sharp pricked her heart. She wanted a man like Victor. She always dreamed of a rich, classy husband. Sandra got him first. She didn't say a word, but envy started growing, slowly, quietly. Victor proposed in a beautiful way, roses, lights, music, everything fancy. The wedding was even more glamorous. Sandra looked like a princess. Victor looked like the perfect groom. Guests whispered, "Sandra has entered enjoyment." Anita stood by her side smiling for pictures. But inside, she felt something she didn't want to name. Sandra moved into Victor's mansion after the wedding, a white duplex with marble floors, expensive perfumes, and cars Anita had only seen on Instagram. The first time Anita visited, her heart tightened. This life should have been mine, she thought. That was the first dangerous seed. While Anita admired Sandra's new life, Sandra was silently suffering. Victor's behavior changed fast. He started coming home late. He stopped answering calls. He smelled of alcohol, and sometimes another woman. When Sandra finally asked, "Where were you?" he slapped her. She never expected it. Victor apologized the next day with gifts, an iPhone, an expensive handbag, sweet words. Sandra forgave him. But it kept happening. Slap. Sorry. Gift. Repeat. Sandra's smile became a mask. Her makeup became a shield. Her long sleeves became a hiding place. She never told anyone, not even Anita. And Anita continued thinking Sandra's life was perfect. Envy grew stronger. Anita started dressing nicely every time she visited the mansion. She praised Victor too much, laughed too hard at his jokes, and tried her best to steal his attention. But Victor didn't notice her in that way. He didn't want her. And that made her feel rejected, small, and angry. She began to believe Sandra didn't deserve the life she had. "If I had a husband like Victor, I would treat him better," she told herself. The envy became obsession. And obsession led her into a dangerous decision. Anita visited an herbalist known for breaking marriages. She didn't go by mistake. She didn't go out of confusion. She went because she wanted Sandra's life. "I want Victor," she said. "I want him to leave his wife." The herbalist warned her clearly. "If I do this work, your life will be tied to his forever. Even if he destroys you, you cannot leave." But jealousy had blinded Anita. "I accept," she said. The charm was done. Thrown into the river. Permanent. Anita walked away smiling, believing she had won. She had no idea she had tied herself to a monster. Victor suddenly became worse to Sandra, cold, angry, hateful without reason. Then one morning, he dragged her bags outside and said, "Leave my house." Just like that. Sandra left crying and confused. And Anita believed her dream was coming true. Victor called her. "Come to my house." She thought it was love. It was only the charm pulling strings. Within a week, he married her. She entered the mansion as the new wife, proud, victorious, excited. But just before the honeymoon, Victor slapped her because she asked for the Wi-Fi password. That was the beginning of her nightmare. The first time Victor beat Anita in the presence of another woman, she finally understood. This man never loved me. The charm didn't bring love. It dragged me into the same hell Sandra escaped from. The other woman had only laughed nervously and said, "Madam, sorry-o," before walking away. Victor didn't even look embarrassed. He didn't apologize. He didn't care. Anita touched her swollen cheek and felt her knees weaken. She had wanted this man more than anything in the world. Now, she feared him more than anything she had ever known. Anita walked into the house as Victor's wife with excitement. She believed everything would be different now, that Victor would cherish her, love her, treat her like a queen because the charm guaranteed he wouldn't leave her. She forgot the herbalist didn't promise love. He promised bondage. Victor never had honeymoon plans. He never talked about traveling. He barely talked to Anita at all. 3 days after the rushed wedding, Anita made a simple mistake. She asked, "Victor, what about our honeymoon now?" He turned slowly, eyes cold, face twisted. "Honeymoon? For what?" I just thought," she stammered. Before she finished, he grabbed her phone and smashed it on the floor. Then he slapped her so hard she fell onto the bed frame. "You're already asking for rubbish. Don't stress me." It was the first strike. And it would not be the last. Anita lay on the floor holding her jaw, unable to believe this was the same man she had risked everything for. She whispered painfully, This cannot be my life." But it was. And it had only just begun. Victor showed Anita a side of him Sandra had spent years hiding from the world. Anita finally experienced the man behind the suits, behind the gifts, behind the wealth. He was paranoid. He was controlling. He was cruel. He shouted at her for asking questions. He hit her for speaking when he wasn't in the mood. He shoved her for walking too slowly. He kicked her if she didn't answer fast enough. Once, she tried to defend herself weakly. "Victor, please stop shouting at me." That was the day he pushed her into the wardrobe door so hard she blacked out for a few seconds. When she woke up, he was gone. No apology. No explanation. Just bruises. Anita started wearing long sleeves indoors, the same way Sandra once did. She avoided mirrors because each time she looked at her reflection, she saw a stranger, a broken, fading version of the confident woman she used to be. She stopped visiting her old friends. She stopped posting on social media. She stopped dreaming. Because dreams do not survive inside a nightmare. One evening, when Victor slapped her twice for breathing too loudly, Anita ran. She packed a few clothes, grabbed her handbag, and rushed out of the mansion barefoot. She didn't care where she went. She just needed to get away. But the moment she got to the gate, her chest tightened violently. It felt like invisible hands were squeezing her heart. She fell on the floor screaming as pain shot through her body. The security guard panicked. Madam, what'n happen?" But Anita knew. The charm. She remembered the herbalist's words. "If you try to leave him, your heart will seize. If you go far, you will die." The guard carried her inside as she trembled uncontrollably. The spell wasn't binding Victor to her. It was binding her to him. She was the prisoner. He was the master. And now she was trapped in a marriage she couldn't run from. Days passed, and the beatings got worse. Victor didn't even try to be gentle. He hit her with anything within reach, his belt, a broomstick, even the remote control. Anita's body became a map of bruises. She couldn't take it anymore. One night, when Victor left the house at midnight to have fun, Anita forced herself to her feet, wrapped a scarf around her swollen face, and took a bike to the herbalist's shrine. She fell at the old man's feet and screamed, "Please undo it. I'm begging you. He will kill me." The herbalist didn't look surprised. He only sighed. "I warned you. You didn't listen." He shook his head slowly. "To break this charm, you must bring back what I threw into the river." Anita froze. "The river," she whispered. "How?" "You would have to dive deep into the water at night. Deep. And even then, if you touch the wrong charm, the river will take you." She broke down crying. I can't do that. Help me, please." The herbalist looked at her with pity. "Go home," he said softly. "Your destiny is tied to him now." Anita's legs gave way. She collapsed on the floor, shaking. Her actions had locked her inside her own death trap. When Anita returned to Victor's mansion, she felt like she was walking into a lion's den. The lights were on. Music was loud. Laughter echoed from inside. He was hosting a party. Women in short dresses danced around him. Men smoked and joked loudly. The house smelled of perfume, cigarettes, and alcohol. Anita barely stepped inside when Victor looked at her and frowned. "Where have you been?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. He didn't wait for her explanation. "Go and serve my guests." She swallowed the pain in her throat and obeyed. She carried drinks with shaking hands. She arranged plates. She cleaned spills on the floor. A woman whispered to another, "Is this not Madame Victor? Why she dey look like house girl?" They laughed. Anita felt her chest twist with shame. Everything she stole. Everything she fought for. Everything she envied. It was all a lie. In the middle of the party, Anita tripped while carrying a tray of wine glasses. The glasses shattered on the floor, wine splashing everywhere. Victor stood up slowly. The entire room fell silent. Everybody watched. Anita knelt down immediately, trying to pick the broken pieces with trembling fingers. Victor walked toward her. Her heart raced. Her breath broke. She whispered, "Please, Victor. I'm sorry." He slapped her so hard her head hit the edge of the center table. Women gasped. Men looked away awkwardly. One man whispered, "Guy, calm down nah. It's just wine." Victor ignored him. He towered over Anita. "You are useless," he shouted. "I can't even take you anywhere." He kicked her in the ribs. Anita cried silently, holding her stomach, unable to speak. And in that painful moment, she remembered the day she prayed, "God, give me a husband like Victor." Now she wished she had never opened her mouth. That night, long after the party ended, Anita picked up the last broken glass from the floor. She was limping. Her lip was bleeding. Her eye was swollen shut. Her ribs burned with every breath. She sat on the kitchen floor and cried quietly. Suddenly, she remembered Sandra, her smile, her kindness, her friendship. She remembered how she had hugged Sandra while secretly envying her. Sandra had loved her like a sister. And Anita had destroyed her life. Now she understood why Sandra left the mansion with nothing. Now she understood why Sandra cried behind closed doors. But understanding came too late. Days passed. Weeks passed. Victor became worse. He didn't hide his girlfriends anymore. He kissed them in front of Anita. He laughed loudly while she cooked with trembling hands. He humiliated her in front of visitors. And every time she tried to leave, the charm pulled her chest tight, warning her that death was close. Every bruise reminded her, "This is the life you chose. This is the life you stole. This is the life you cannot escape." Anita stopped hoping for help. She stopped crying loudly. She stopped praying for rescue. Because she now knew. She was living inside the same pain Sandra once survived. Except Sandra escaped. Anita never would. The day Anita decided to look for Sandra, she could barely walk. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her lip was cracked. Her ribs stabbed her with every breath. But nothing hurt more than the truth sitting heavy in her chest. "I destroyed the only person who ever loved me, and now I have nowhere else to go." Victor had just beaten her in the compound again, this time in front of the security guard and 2 delivery men. She didn't fight him. She didn't speak. She simply curled into herself and waited for it to end. When he finally went inside, laughing with his friends, Anita stood up slowly and made a decision. She was going to Sandra. Not for pity. Not for rescue. But because guilt was killing her faster than the charm. Anita found a scarf, covered her face, and stepped out of the mansion she once dreamt of. She crossed the road slowly, holding her ribs, praying she wouldn't collapse before she reached the junction. Every step felt like walking on broken bones. Every breath felt like swallowing fire. She stopped a bike and whispered weakly, "Suralir. Shitta, please." The bike man looked at her face and hissed quietly, "Auntie, Who do you like this? Anita looked away. Just take me there. The wind slapped her wounds as the bike sped through Lagos streets, but she didn't complain. She felt small, empty, drained, like a shadow of herself. When they reached Sandra's old area, the familiar noise hit her, children shouting, generators humming, women gossiping near their doors. The life she once shared with Sandra was still there, only she was the stranger now. Anita stood in front of the small self-contained room Sandra rented. Her knees shook. Her heartbeat raced. She knocked. It wasn't loud. It was a weak, broken tap. Sandra opened the door with a bowl in her hand. At first, she didn't recognize the woman standing there. The scarf was removed halfway, and the bruised, swollen face underneath made her gasp. Sandra, Anita whispered. Sandra froze. Anita's legs gave out. She fell on her knees, crying. Sandra, please, please forgive me. Sandra's eyes widened, not with anger, but with shock. Anita tried to speak, but her voice broke into pieces. I destroyed your home. I took your husband. I did charms. I wanted your life, and now I am dying inside. She sobbed uncontrollably. The words poured out like a confession that had waited too long. I betrayed you. I lied to you. I envied you. I laughed behind you. I wished for your life. I forced myself into your marriage. And now every day he beats me. Sandra, he will kill me. Sandra didn't move. Her face was calm, but her eyes trembled. Neighbors started watching from their windows, whispering. Anita cried harder. Sandra, please. I am begging you, just tell me you forgive me. Even if you never want to see me again, please forgive me. Sandra set the bowl down quietly and bent to help her stand. She didn't hug her. She didn't touch her wounds. But she didn't walk away either. She led Anita inside to sit on a small plastic chair. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Sandra finally broke the silence. Why, Anita? Her voice was soft. Tired. Hurt. Anita cried into her palms. I was jealous. I wanted what you had. I thought you were ungrateful. But I didn't know. I didn't know what you were going through. I didn't know the truth. Sandra looked at her bruised face. Now you know. Sandra took a deep breath. She looked older, stronger, but sadder. Anita, she began slowly, you were my sister. I loved you. I never hid anything from you except my pain, because I was ashamed. Anita nodded, tears dripping onto her hands. Sandra continued. You hurt me. You broke my trust. You destroyed something that meant everything to me. And you didn't even look back. Anita cried harder. I know. I know. I am so sorry. Sandra watched her for a long moment. Then she said, I forgive you. Anita froze. Her sobs stopped. Her breath caught. Her heart almost burst. You forgive me? Sandra nodded gently. I forgive you, Anita. Not because you deserve it, but because I need peace. Anita covered her face and cried loudly, deep, painful cries that came from her soul. But then Sandra added, but we can never be friends again. The room fell silent. Anita's heart dropped to the floor. Sandra continued, voice steady. You broke something that cannot be repaired. I can forgive you, but I cannot walk with you again. Anita felt like she had been stabbed. This was the real punishment. Not Victor. Not the charm. Not the beatings. Losing Sandra. The only person who ever saw her as a sister. Sandra stood up and wiped her hands on her wrapper. You need to go home, she said softly. Home. The word felt like poison. Sandra didn't mean comfort. She meant the mansion. She meant Victor. She meant the hell Anita created for herself. Anita wanted to beg to stay. She wanted to fall at Sandra's feet again. She wanted to say, please don't send me back. But the charm in her chest tightened slowly, as if warning her she was already taking too long. She stood up shakily. Sandra walked to the door. She didn't look angry. She didn't look hateful. She looked like someone who had decided to move on. Anita walked out with tears streaming down her face. Sandra didn't hug her goodbye. She didn't hold her hand. She simply said, "May God have mercy on you," and closed the door. That soft click broke Anita completely. The walk back to the junction was harder than the walk in. Her legs were weak. Her heart was shattered. Her soul felt empty. The bike man stared at her for a moment before starting the engine. He could see her shaking. He could feel her pain. But he couldn't help her. No one could. The ride back to the mansion felt longer than Lagos to Ibadan. Every streetlight looked like judgment. Every bump felt like punishment. Anita whispered to herself, "I deserve this. I caused this. I destroyed myself." When the bike stopped in front of the mansion, the charm tightened in her chest, pulling her toward the house like an invisible rope. She walked inside slowly. Victor was laughing with strangers. He didn't ask where she had gone. He didn't ask why her scarf was wet with tears. He didn't even look at her. He simply pointed at the kitchen. "Go and serve my guests." And Anita obeyed, because she had no choice. That night, long after everyone left, Anita picked up empty bottles from the floor. Her hands trembled. Her chest burned. Her legs felt like they would snap. She stared at the broken wine glass on the ground and saw her reflection. Swollen face. Bruised cheek. Cracked lip. Empty eyes. She didn't recognize herself. She remembered the day she said, "This life should have been mine." Now she whispered, "I never should have touched it." The mansion was quiet. Victor was upstairs with another woman. Laughter drifted down the hallway. Anita dropped to her knees and cried into her hands. She wasn't crying from pain. Not from fear. Not from regret. She was crying because she realized something devastating. She had lost Sandra. Forever. And that loss hurt more than every beating Victor had ever given her. On the night Anita realized she would die in Victor's house, she wasn't being beaten. She wasn't being insulted. She wasn't even being noticed. She was simply wiping the floor in silence while Victor flirted with another woman on the couch, and it hit her. "I am not a wife. I am not even a person here. I am a prisoner in the life I stole." That truth hurt more than any slap. And from that moment, every breath she took felt like a countdown. Victor's mansion never felt like home. It felt like a cage filled with loud music, cheap perfume, angry footsteps, and painful memories. Every day followed the same pattern. Victor woke up angry. He shouted at Anita for something small. He left the house without telling her where he was going. He returned at night drunk, smelling of cigarettes and other women. If Anita tried to talk, he interrupted her with insults. If she tried to defend herself, he beat her. If she cried, he beat her harder. He didn't see her bruises. He didn't care about her pain. She became invisible. Except when he wanted to hurt someone. Each time Anita tried to step outside the compound, the charm in her chest reacted. It squeezed her heart so hard she fell to the ground gasping for air. She learned quickly. She stopped trying to escape. She stopped dreaming of freedom. She stopped imagining life without him. She understood the truth. She was no longer living for herself. Her existence belonged to Victor. Her destiny was tied to him until death. And death felt closer every day. Victor lived like a man who had no wife. He brought different women home. He threw parties on weekdays. He introduced himself as single. He flirted with friends in front of Anita. He kissed women in the living room while she cooked their food. Sometimes he told the women, "Don't mind her. She's just someone helping around." Anita's heart would break again and again. She wanted to scream, "I am your wife." But she knew the response would be a punch. So she swallowed her pride, her identity, her entire life, and wiped the lipstick stains off his shirts quietly. One night, Victor returned home at 3 a.m. with 2 friends and 2 young ladies. They were all drunk and loud. They turned the music up so high the windows vibrated. Anita came out quietly and said, "Victor, please the neighbors." She didn't finish the sentence. Victor grabbed her hair and slammed her into the wall. "You dare talk to me," he shouted. "You stupid woman." His friends stood frozen. The girls gasped. Victor punched her twice. Then a third time. Anita fell to the floor, her vision blurry. When she didn't move immediately, Victor kicked her in the stomach. The whole room went silent. One of the girls whispered, "Is she breathing?" Anita could hear everything but couldn't open her eyes. Her body refused to move. Victor shook her roughly. "Stand up. Stand up, idiot." When she still didn't respond, he dropped her back on the floor like trash and walked away. Someone suggested calling a hospital. Victor said, "No. Leave her. She's faking it." The girls were afraid to argue. No one helped Anita. She lay on the cold floor for almost an hour. When she finally opened her eyes, the room was empty. Victor was upstairs laughing with the girls. Anita dragged herself to the bathroom, locked the door, and cried silently. She looked at her face in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman staring back. Anita sat on the bathroom floor for a long time. She remembered Sandra. She remembered their childhood. She remembered the nights they whispered dreams to each other. And suddenly she understood something she had ignored for years. Sandra never wanted a mansion. She wanted peace. Anita never wanted peace. She wanted wealth, status, a rich husband, luxury cars. But peace is something money cannot buy. She traded her soul for what she thought was a beautiful life, only to discover the beauty was just wallpaper covering a rotten wall. She whispered to herself, "I took her suffering, not her blessings." Weeks turned into months. Anita stopped fighting. She stopped resisting. She stopped trying to leave. She woke up. She cleaned. She cooked. She obeyed. She became whatever Victor wanted her to be. People in the neighborhood began whispering, "That woman looks like she's dying." But no one helped her. Everyone feared Victor. Anita accepted her fate. She accepted the dull ache in her chest. She accepted the bruises that never had time to heal. She accepted the fact that she would die in that house. Because she believed she deserved the punishment. One rainy evening, a woman knocked on the mansion gate. She was tall, beautiful, confident, one of Victor's new girlfriends. "Good evening," she said sweetly. "I'm here to see Victor." Anita nodded and opened the door. Her hands shook as she stepped aside. The woman stopped suddenly and stared at Anita. "Madam, are you okay?" Anita forced a smile. "Yes. I am fine." The woman looked sad. "Why is he treating you like this?" Anita couldn't answer. The charm pulsed painfully in her chest, warning her to stay silent. "Don't worry," the woman whispered. "I won't take your man. I just came to talk about business." Anita almost laughed. Victor wasn't hers anymore. He had never been. As she walked the woman in, Victor came downstairs smiling, hugging her tightly, totally ignoring Anita standing right there. Anita realized something strange. Victor saved his gentleness for strangers. Not for her. Never for her. She wasn't a wife. She was a punching bag with a wedding ring. Somewhere across Lagos, Sandra's life was finally getting better. She rented a small shop. Her catering business grew slowly. She received peace like a gift from heaven. She slept at night without fear. She breathed without pain. She smiled without pretending. Sandra didn't become rich. She didn't marry a billionaire. She didn't live in a mansion. But she woke up every day with something priceless. Freedom. Anita woke up every day with chains around her heart. 2 women. 2 different destinies. And one dangerous choice that changed everything. One night, after another brutal beating, Anita lay on the floor staring at the ceiling. She whispered, "God, please forgive me." Not because she expected rescue. Not because she hoped for help. But because she realized something deep. She wasn't being punished by Victor. She wasn't being punished by Sandra. She wasn't being punished by the herbalist. She was living inside the consequences of her own jealousy. She closed her eyes and accepted the truth. I chose this. I wanted this. And now I cannot escape it. Anita never found peace again. Not in Victor's house. Not in her mind. Not in her heart. She continued living with him because the charm forced her. Every day she served him. Every day she endured his anger. Every day she carried bruises on her body and guilt in her soul. The mansion was no longer big or beautiful. It was a silent graveyard for a life she destroyed with her own hands. And Anita finally understood. Luxury without peace is hell. Marriage without love is prison. Envy is a debt that never forgets to collect. Sandra healed. Sandra rebuilt. Sandra moved forward. Sandra found peace. Anita survived. But she never escaped. Never healed. Never smiled from her heart again. Because she learned the hardest, most painful truth. No matter how beautiful someone's life looks from outside, you don't know the demons hiding behind their doors. And sometimes, when you steal another person's life, you steal their suffering, not their blessings.